So I was scrolling through TikTok the other day, you know, the same way that a lab rat that's chemically addicted to cocaine runs through a maze built by researchers, and I stumbled upon the most infuriating garbage video I've seen in months. A video that truly sent me into a blind rage. I couldn't see for 15 minutes, my teeth went numb, my eyes were bloodshot, my saliva tasted like sulfur. So I'm gonna put a few pieces of the video on the screen right now so you can feel how I felt.
Taylor Swift did not win Album of the Year at the 2016 Grammys for 1989 because she's white, or because she makes stupid pop music that sounds the same. And honestly, I just don't really get it. Like, if you're that unhappy about like your favorite artists not winning an award, tell them to make better music. It's kind of that simple. It might be Taylor Swift's best album. It might be the best album of all time, actually. To Pimp a Butterfly is fine, but like the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that like I don't actually like rap. I liked I and King Kunta in the album, but like 1999 is way better. So maybe like take notes? I don't know.
Yeah, so steam was coming out of my ears. So I saw this video and the room started spinning. I forgot who I was. All facets of my identity were inversed and flattened. I went onto Letterboxd and I tried to log Hegel. It was a mess. But after stabilizing myself, I decided I can't let this happen. I can't let the bad guys win. So I'm gonna dedicate this video to debunking the downright awful claims made in that video. Consider this my application for a PhD research program on hating at UCI. But before we do any of that, so this weekend I accidentally ruptured an oil pipeline into the Sargasso Sea. I know, right? Happens to the best of us, and I am the best of us. But because of this, I was looking for a way to give back to the beautiful world of which I stripped hundreds of fish, thousands, millions even, which is why I'm thankful to Wren for sponsoring this video. Wren is a great news source you can use to support in your efforts in reducing the effects of climate change. Basically, you go to the website, take a little quiz, and you know, they tell you what you can do to reduce carbon emissions from your life. And if you want to offset some of the stuff that it is impossible to not do, maybe taking a bus or driving a car, you can do that too. And once you sign up for a monthly contribution, you get monthly updates with pictures and information about every ton of carbon offset. And Wren has a bunch of really cool and specific projects that you can support, such as removing dead and flammable trees from California wildlife so that they won't burn in forest fires, and then converting the biomass of the dead trees into biochar so that the carbon won't be released into the atmosphere. The effects of climate change are visible pretty much everywhere. Of course, in the summer in Seattle, the skies get red because of forest fires, and right now it's over 70 degrees in April in Seattle, which is pretty goofy. Anyways, this could just be one thing that you do in addition to a bunch of other stuff. Of course, at the end of the day, it still lies on the shoulders of large institutions and corporations to do the actual work to prevent climate change. And Wren also funds climate change legislation efforts. So, offset your carbon footprint on Wren, you can use this link, and the first 100 people who sign up get a free month. It's on the house, so do that. Go do that. Do that. Do it. Okay, back to the video. Hi, welcome back to a Civil War memorial site. I'm a ghost. And I'm screaming. In advance, sorry for my appearance if I look like puffy-eyed or tired. It's allergy season, and while purchasing acetaminophen, I was possessed by the ghost of a switchboard operator, and it's been blowing my features up like a zeppelin. Having all that ghost in you is no joke. I'm one of those rare shambling corpses who has absorbed TikTok culture religiously for over 4 years now. I'm just a labyrinth puppet being marionetted by ByteDance, so when I tell you that a take this bad as the one in this video, this loud, this offensive, coming with a full face and voice attached rather than like hiding the face and writing it in text, that is crazy. Especially considering earlier today, I saw another bad one with a face and voice attached about how people who only speak English have less developed brains. Of course, that one came from a native French speaker. French people suck a snail from a shell one time and think they deserve a MacArthur grant. But onto the video, onto Taylor Swift, onto Kendrick Lamar, onto discourse. Can I talk about this, right? I'm a freelance cornball. I used to do it for free, you know? I listened to Logic and Watsky freshman year of high school. The answer to can I do this is yes, because I rose up through the corporate hierarchy of cornballness and broke the corn ceiling, and now I listen to good music, like the Yeet Minion tie-ins. But before we get this video started, I want to establish 3 things, just for context. The first one is that 1989 is a Taylor Swift album, a pop project that was reviewed generally well and is regarded as fine or good by a bunch of critics, and that it won the Grammy for Best Album over To Pimp a Butterfly, which is a rap hip-hop album made by Kendrick Lamar that is regarded by many, critics and laymen included, to be one of the best albums ever made. It has insane critical reception. The second is that this video does not mean that I think that Taylor Swift is a bad artist. I don't listen to her stuff that much personally, but I think she is a talented songwriter, vocalist. She clearly has a lot of fans, and I respect those people. And the third and final thing is that if you go and look up the person in the video that I'm talking about, if you look them up and you send them messages and you harass them, you're a fucking loser. Please do not do that. You don't need to do that. They deleted the video. They went private because a bunch of other people tore them to shreds over just how awful it was. That is their time. They served their internet time. We do not need to dox them and call their work. You know, we can employ sanity and stability and be normal. If somebody lost employment every single time they had a bad take online, we would have a labor crisis, okay? Every bisexual barista would be getting a severance check for overrating Midsommar. And if you watch this video, dear Swiftie, who made the original video, you are not a bad person, but a video like the one you uploaded means you have a lot of work to do in terms of music and media comprehension. So this video is mind-shatteringly bad and stupid, and I figured let's go line for line and dissect the garbage. Hopefully by the end somebody will be willing to give me a public relations job for a skeevy businessman. You know, I believe in stochastic job advancement. It reminds me of the time that I got promoted to hostage negotiator because my coworker brought a bomb to work and I convinced him to swallow it whole, and then he turned ovular for a second and then blew out smoke.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but Taylor Swift did not win Album of the Year at the 2016 Grammys for 1989 because she's white, or because she makes stupid pop music that sounds the same. She won because she worked hard on an album that sounds fucking good, and because she marketed the album well after its release.
Okay, so the first thing I have to acknowledge here is that this is not an awful take yet. It's not a great one because it de-emphasizes the true power and weight of whiteness in the context of the Grammys, but it's not horrible. Marketing and publicity are hugely indicative of what's going to win the top award at a lot of awards shows. I mean, for crying out loud, the Oscars have people running for your consideration ad campaigns. Sorry about that, I'm sweating like a mule at an apple eating competition. But that being said, from 2012 to 2022, basically every single album that won Best Album was made by an artist with significant pop appeal, or an artist who does make pop music. Harry Styles, Jon Batiste, Billie Eilish, Casey Musgraves, Taylor Swift, Adele, Daft Punk, Beck, Mumford & Sons. Most of these people are making big pop radio hits at some point or another. Additionally, most of the people who are nominated at the Grammys, well, they're white. They are nominated because of a history of systemic racism in this country and so many other factors that have to do with that history. But yeah, white people disproportionately do take home awards compared to non-white people, especially black people, who are responsible for so much of how music has been shaped in the last century in this country. So if you're going to look at a situation like the one where Taylor Swift won over Kendrick Lamar in 2016 and say the only thing at play here is quality, you are taking a pointedly anti-reality approach to the situation. You're playing Fortnite and I'm playing Fortnite-themed chess, or I don't know. I really don't know anything about anything. But you know, if we're talking about quality, we might want to know what critics think about the album. So let's go back to the year that Taylor Swift's album was nominated. Here were the nominees and their aggregate critic scores from Metacritic. I'm going to be using critic scores here as opposed to user scores because user scores sometimes are flooded by obsessive fans, which is why you have artists like Demi Lovato, BTS, and Jennifer Lopez in the top 50 albums ever created, but there are glaring omissions. Nonetheless, of course, critic aggregate is not an ironclad testament to the quality of the album. It's just a useful metric for critical reception and generally some indication of quality usually. There were 5 albums nominated for Best Album that year, and I will be reading the name of the album along with its critic score after. Sound and Color, Alabama Shakes, with an 80. Traveler by Chris Stapleton with an 85, Beauty Behind the Madness by The Weeknd with a 74, 1989 by Taylor Swift with a 76, and To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar with a whopping 96. So Taylor Swift and The Weeknd were the lowest scoring, only about 2 points apart, and Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly not only gets an insane 96, but that 96 places it number 5 on Metacritic's all-time scores. So if we're going to say that there's some general consensus on quality of an album, and we're only going to talk about the amount of units it sold or the amount of times it's streamed, it's just not taking in the full picture of how music is made, how art is ingested. You'll see this a lot with a lot of other pop fans, especially people who are fans of Drake. They'll say that this person is the best artist or has the best album because it sold the most or streamed the most. It's just not how it works.
So I saw this tweet yesterday about a Swiftie account reposting like a Frank Ocean comment from 2017 about 1989 and captioned it "Karma is real" because he did like a really bad performance over Coachella this past weekend. I wouldn't know because I don't really pay attention to him. And the comment was like some dumb shit like, "Oh, you know what's not good TV? 1989 getting Album of the Year over To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar." And honestly, I just don't really get it. Like, if you're that unhappy about like your favorite artists not winning an award, tell them to make better music. It's kind of that simple.
Wow, okay, that's a lot. I mean, first of all, I do have Kendrick on speed dial, but he's an ICE contact, and he told me to call only if I need access to a necromancer, because he can help with that stuff. Second of all, Frank Ocean was right here. He was correct, because To Pimp a Butterfly is a generational album, mixing hip-hop, jazz, R&B, funk, and spoken word to create a massive 1 hour and 18-minute long epic that tackles civil rights, the Black Lives Matter movement, the legacy of slavery, systemic incarceration and racism, Kendrick's personal connection to black liberation, his guilt over feelings of inadequacy, all told through 16 songs produced and composed and orchestrated by some of the best hip-hop producers, jazz instrumentalists, and vocalists alive. You've got Thundercat, you've got George Clinton, you've got Pharrell, you've got Knowledge, samples from the Isley Brothers, Sufjan Stevens. This album is a musically dense masterwork, a magnum opus, not just for Kendrick, but some would argue for an entire genre. 1989 just is not as important of an album, and even the biggest songs from 1989, Blank Space, Welcome to New York, Style, Bad Blood, the hits, do not even reach the worst track on To Pimp a Butterfly. Not in composition, not in songwriting, not in lyricism, not in message, not in theme. It's not even a fair comparison. I'm sure if you got Taylor Swift one-on-one and you said, is it fair to compare these two albums, she would say no, because that is an insane thing. That's a hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. That's what this matchup is. To listen to Pimp a Butterfly and to 1989, and then to turn around and to say maybe you should tell Kendrick he should make better music is deranged. It tells me that you don't have the range to understand what's going on in an album like this. This isn't just the apex of Kendrick, this is one of the apexes of music. And if you are unable to see that, that is not his fault.
And also, if we're talking about like impact, 1989 literally brought back the 80s sound, made pop music smart, and it's just an overall really, really good, sonically cohesive, lyrically amazing album. It might be Taylor Swift's best album. It might be the best album of all time, actually.
Okay, notes there. It was sonically cohesive, it brought back the 80s sound, made pop music smart, it had really good lyrically amazing, and it might be Taylor Swift's best album and might be the best album of all time. Okay, so a lot to unpack there. So going off of the general Swiftie analysis, I don't know how many people would say it's even Taylor's best album, especially coming off of the more critically acclaimed Folklore and Evermore. I'm just not sure who's out here saying 1989 is unabashedly Taylor Swift's best album. I don't know who is, other than you. Saying that it brought back the 80s sound is interesting to me, because I guess if you go and listen to 1989, it's mostly just like 2010s epic pop choral hooks, and I guess some of the groovier bass lines, and maybe some of the sort of almost gated drum sound comes off a bit 80s, but compared to the recent 80s revivals, I don't see it. Like Bad Blood has a trap beat. Shake It Off sounds like a Jason Derulo horn line. It's not really 80s, right? It's not really a nostalgia bait album, and I'm huge on nostalgia bait. I remember as well as anybody else 2000s nostalgia, you know? Turning on the television and seeing a second drop shadow hit the Frutiger Arrow UX. I can't be the only one who remembers when the Celtics used to release tens of thousands of garden snakes onto the court like a balloon drop and wouldn't resume playing until the other team brought out their own St. Patrick. Listen, I love the 80s sound. I do. I'm an American. I eat Quaker's Dino Egg oatmeal mixed with cement, and I do jumping jacks until it comes out so I don't petrify. I listen to Born in the USA specifically because I love the success story of the American government's veteran neglect. My blood is red, white, and blue because of lead ingestion. It's just that this album is not that 80s. Its name is 1989. That's the most 80s thing about it, maybe. Okay, so we're also calling 1989 lyrically amazing. If you like the lyrics, if you think they're great, that's okay. Taylor Swift is a good songwriter, but I don't think it's a good matchup to look at the incredibly dense, layered, thematic language being used on To Pimp a Butterfly and compare it to a top 40 pop album. They're not the same. But let's do it, because I'm feeling petty, so let's go verse for verse. So here's the first verse off of All You Had to Do Was Stay off of 1989. People like you always want back the love they gave away, and people like me want to believe you when you say you've changed. The more I think about it now, the less I know. All I know is that you drove us off the road. That's a good verse. It's not a bad verse at all. It's short, sweet, about love and a certain type of person. But now let's do the same for the latter half of Kendrick Lamar's first verse on the song Mama off of To Pimp a Butterfly, which is one of the least streamed songs off of the album, by the way. You admitted it once I submitted it wrapped in plastic. Remember scribble and scratch and diligent sentences backwards, visiting freestyle ciphers for your reaction. Now I can live in a stadium pack at the fastest, gambling Benjamin's benefits, sitting in traffic, spinning women in cartwheels, linen fabric on fashion. Winning in every decision, Kendrick is master that mastered it. Isn't it lovely how menaces turned attraction? Pivot in rappers, finish your fraction while writing Blue Magic. Thank God for rap, I would say it got me a plaque, but what's better than that? The fact it brought me back home. So this verse is about everything on the album. It's about everything. It's about music and connection, exploitation, the path success leads you down, the way he's reacted to it, how it led him to home, how it led it to a truer version of himself in the world. It really is hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. The verses on this album are insane. They are virtuoso level. The internal rhymes, the cadence, the flow, the structure, and the density, the meaning, it's not even fucking close. Sorry. You know, if I ever get a time machine, I'm going back in time to make sure the Shinzo Abe assassination still happens. Because that gun is the funniest thing I've ever seen. It was just a trip to Lowe's, trip to Home Depot, and a fireworks stand. Oh, this old thing? Yeah, it's just PVC and electrical tape. It's a fun DIY home project. You can find the crochet pattern on Lovecraft. It's like 2 pounds and it could blast 6 golf balls clean through a sea lion. Tell you that's not funny. I'm pretty quirky. I like making quirky videos. I have a reverse Oedipus complex. It's where I don't want to fuck my mom. I need to get back to the topic of the video.
To Pimp a Butterfly is fine, but like, not everyone likes rap. Like, the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that like I don't actually like rap. I liked and King Kunta in the album, but like 1989 is way better, sorry. But yeah, put that complaining energy into like telling your favorite artists to make better music. When Taylor doesn't win something, she works hard and then she wins something else in the future. Maybe like take notes? I don't know. Anyway, stream 1989.
Okay, this last part is why I really wanted to make this video. To me, this is overt racism. Taylor Swift fans, don't be overtly racist challenge, difficulty level, give me God of War. But why is this overtly racist? Well, rap has always suffered from being demeaned and belittled on racial lines because it is a black art form, because it developed in poor neighborhoods, because it reflects the very real situations that black people may find themselves in, everything from family problems, to love, to racial discrimination, to police brutality, to gang violence, to poverty, to substance abuse. You most likely have heard the term mumble rap 100 times, used to demean massively influential artists and trailblazers like Future, like Cardi, from people who don't understand what rap is, and that it may straight up not be for them. Right, To Pimp a Butterfly as an album is not for me. I am West Indian, I am Trinidadian and Hungarian. The album is not specifically for me, and it will never resonate for me, connect with me in the same way it can for someone whom it was made for, whose experience it was made about. The idea that not everybody likes rap, you know, it might be fine. It's suspect because rap is so broad and it contains multitudes, but fine. But the idea that rap is an infantile fixation, something that you grow out of, you realize you never really liked as you move on to Taylor Swift and pop and folk genres dominated by wealthier, whiter artists, is a racially charged idea.
Hey, so it's later in the day. I ingested 3 Red Bulls recording this video, and now I'm crashing like hell, but I wanted to issue an edit. So earlier I said that the guy deleted the video and went private. Turns out he's kept up other videos like it. He's made his account public again. And he has published a YouTube video on why 1989 is better than To Pimp a Butterfly. In my opinion, he hasn't served his time, right? There's no lesson to be learned because it seems now that he is an outrage clicks clout goblin. And my advice would be, if you're watching this video, to not go and watch his YouTube video, to not go to his TikTok, to not do anything that would drive him any sort of attention, you know? I mean, I'm making this video because I do think there are earnestly harmful ideas in the stuff that he's saying about, like, rap as a genre. But yeah, don't give him any more of the attention that he wants. Don't go to his YouTube channel. Don't hate watch anything else. Just watch this video. Give his money to me. Give his money to me. Okay, so bye.
Rap is not shallow, nor is it simple. As someone who has been producing music for nearly 7 years, most of the people who think rap is stupid or shallow, given infinite time, could not make a Cardi song, could not get close to a Dilla beat, a Madlib beat, an Alchemist beat, a Pierre Bourne beat, a Metro Boomin beat, a Kendrick verse, a Black Thought verse. It's just not happening. The idea that rap is something you grow out of is one that stems from ignorance of the genre itself, one that comes from a fundamentally incorrect appraisal of what rap is and what it has to offer, and a wildly presumptuous and gross idea that all music is made for you and that if you don't understand it, other things must be better. And the idea that Taylor Swift works hard and turns around and wins awards because of that hard work, not because in part of her whiteness, not because of her wealth, not because of her insanely dedicated parasocial fan base and her pop appeal, is ridiculous. Taylor Swift has not been pushing musical boundaries inside or outside of pop in the same way that other pop artists has. She just hasn't. And she especially has not been pushing musical boundaries to the extent that artists like Kendrick Lamar have. You know, I'm sick of this white girl boss discourse. Stop talking about women presidents. We need a homunculus president that is direct lineage of the Bush family, small enough to fit in the picnic basket with some brie and rosemary crackers, a president that says, yes, we can breed super soldiers in the vats of pho broth in the back of Vietnamese restaurants. Scrubbing through 1989 has really confirmed for me that like I'm like a white person expert. My half white side has really just enabled that. I have spidey senses, except I can tell when white people voted for Pete Buttigieg based on the cut of their true religions, right? I can go to Crate and Barrel like I'm on a suburban safari, pull up up in a Jeep Wrangler or bring binoculars and crouch behind artisan birch tables bigger than my apartment looking at people with Telfar bags arguing about color palettes. In the end, the honest-to-God truth about these two albums is that To Pimp a Butterfly was a cultural touchstone. It is an amazing album. I've been listening to it for over half a decade now, right? 1989 was for people who only buy vinyls at Hobby Lobby. It was Middle America's Thriller. It's for 20-year-olds from Nashville whose first foray into politics was putting a Ukrainian flag in the display name, and now they're too nervous to remove it. And that's okay. Taylor Swift is not a bad artist by any means, but comparing these two albums is just ridiculous. And coming onto the internet that was so graciously gifted to us by a benevolent God, and saying that 1989 is quantifiably better and that To Pimp a Butterfly is fine and you just don't get it and you want to move past rap, these are racially charged sentiments. And if you believe these things, if you agree with them, you need to, one, go back to the drawing board, listen to Pimp a Butterfly again, and try to understand what it's about. And two, listen to more music, get more music into you. And finally, do a deep dive on rap, on hip hop, and try to understand what biases you may have that are predisposing you to thinking that this genre is infantile. Because it's very disrespectful to write off the entire genre. And I'm 100% sure that you will find some of your favorite music you've ever heard if you really do take the time. Anywho, that's about all I had to say about this video. It just made me wildly angry. Thank you so much for Wren for sponsoring this video. Once more, use the link in the description. 1 free month off your first month, blah, blah, blah. Support me on Patreon. I'm almost at $2,000, and when I hit $2,000 a month, I actually have put it as a perk to release 2 shelved albums to my patrons, which is going to be so embarrassing, but that'll be fun. And if you like the hats in the background of this video, go buy them from my friend Elena Fortune's store. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much. Bye. Everybody wants a piece of me, I wish they didn't. Just me, myself, and I. I'll show off my worst sides, the ones that put you out for on a work guy, the one that makes you wonder if I'll hurt myself, or that make you want it just to divert my health. I'm late to the party and you're walking in. Don't talk to me if you wanna box me in. Don't block me, come up on my block again. I'm fine, 'cause I'm leaning on my wrist again. I'ma make somebody hurt if I become a friend. Everybody wants a piece of me.